There are still a few no-brainer buys, in my opinion, in the current market, and I'm going to break that down right now, and I'm going to prove to you that these are some no-brainer buys. Now, we're going to take a look at some Scarlet and Violet era stuff just to make some comparisons. All right, Twilight Masquerade, it has the Greninja. It's a nice set. It was the first set that kind of like started popping things off of this era, and you can see these booster boxes just passed $200 per booster box. Now keep that price in mind. That's what we're going off of. You got a Scarlet and Violet era booster box SV06 already at over $200. Then you have, Paldea Evolved is a great set. I think this is still a solid investment moving forward as well. But you can see SV02 at over $220 per box. Once again, great set. I'm not talking these sets down. I just think that there's a few absolutely no-brainer plays, right? So keep that in mind. $220 for Paldea. Then you have Obsidian Flames, SV03. This one's about to crack 200. So we're, a little bit before 200. 192 currently on TCG Player. All right. So for the sake of this video, if we round up a little bit, right, $200, it's going to hit it at some point. So $200, right? We're pretty much at $200 or $220 for all of these boxes. And the no-brainer plays, in my opinion, are Astral Radiance booster boxes. Check out this price. What's this price? $220. Now, why Astral Radiance? Why do you say Astral Radiance? Well, Astral Radiance isn't going to get reprinted. So there's a few Sword and Shield boxes, right, that are guaranteed to not get well, you can't say guaranteed. Nothing's 100%. Pokemon Company can do whatever they want, but pretty much guaranteed that they're not going to reprint Astral Radiance. I mean, they can't even print the new sets enough. So you think they're going to go back to Sword and Shield? So yeah, these aren't going to get reprinted. They're at 220, 225, 226 a box. Okay. And Astral Radiance is one of those, it's like a lower tiered Sword and Shield set. But when you start to look at it, you have the Machamp V, a nice alternate art. It's not crazy expensive right now, but this is a card that's, it's on its way up. It's probably going to continue to climb as some of the other alternate arts from the era get even more expensive. People are going to go to the lesser stuff. We're seeing it happen right now in the SV era with illustration rares, right? People are targeting the lesser valued illustration rares for the same reason. And Machamp is going to be one of those cards. It's a nice looking, once again, it's not a top tier alternate art, right? But $150, people are going to want to chase this card. And I'm talking about the sealed, the booster boxes. Sealed is king for me. The supply will only go down while the demand for the Sword and Shield era has proven to be very high, right? People are already extremely nostalgic about Sword and Shield. So people are going to want these boxes, one, for their collection, and two, to chase the Machamp V. Not only the Machamp V, $150 card, you got the Starmie, which just is cracking $100, the Starmie V with Misty, a really nice looking trainer gallery card, right? So $220 for Astral Radiance, $100 Misty card. You also have this card, which has gained a lot of popularity lately because of the Pokemon TCG Pocket app. If you're not familiar, there's an alternate version of this card in that app, extremely popular. So you got the Origin Form Palkia in Astral Radiance, and then possibly one of the greatest undervalued alternate arts in my opinion, although it has seen a 60% increase recently. This is an absolutely stunning Beedrill card. I don't know, I'm just really drawn to this card. I'm not really a Beedrill fan. Well, I like Beedrill. I like Gen 1 Pokemon. I always thought that, Beedrill was the cooler version of Butterfree. And I like Butterfree, but Beedrill was the cooler version between the Caterpie Weedle evolution line. And so, you got around another $40 Beedrill card. I think, so Astral Radiance, back to the booster box at $220 is a no-brainer. These are not going to get reprinted. Then you have Silver Tempest. Once again, possibly one of the weaker sets. A little bit more expensive currently, $230, $240. We can call it $240 for the sake of the video, right? And we're going to go back and touch on those SV boxes in a second as well. But just hear me out. Silver Tempest booster box, same situation, not going to get reprinted, okay? And mostly when I talk about Silver Tempest, it's kind of mostly about two cards that really stand out to me. But you can see the price. So once again, these SV boxes are getting close to these Sword and Shield, and between the two, if you want to have some safe plays, safe investments, I don't think you can go wrong with Silver Tempest, even at $240. Give it enough time. These Sword and Shield boxes, are going to be of great value. Evolving Skies is kind of like the lead blocker, the fullback, leading the way, blocking for everyone else. Then you have your Lost Origin, your Fusion Strike. They're falling right behind. And then, maybe these are another step back, but these are still going to be great investments. And like I said, it has the Lugia. It has an iconic card. People are going to want to chase this. So I don't really do these type of videos where I'm using this kind of like tone, if you will, right? We're usually a little more chill, a little more analytical of just like, hey, this is what's happening. But we're at a point, I mean, also too, with these boxes, look what these boxes have done. They've chilled off, right? These are great buying points for Astral Radiance. Like, look at this, 230 down, like they've come down, they've flattened off. If you want to like wait and let them play out, it looks like Silver Tempest is already on the rise again, and there'll be ebbs and flows along the way, right? That's natural. That happens in the market. But come on, guys, we have an iconic Lugia card. In Destined Rivals, we have a Ho-Oh card coming out. Now, I don't know how much attention that's going to bring to the Lugia, if any, right? But, those Pokemon are connected, gold and silver, right? So I genuinely believe that these are absolutely no-brainer plays, hands down, easy to be made for sealed investing. I'm not really talking about the singles, right? Singles can be more volatile. Singles, the supply goes up as people open, but the sealed supply always goes down. And especially for Sword and Shield era, booster boxes are king. The PC ETBs, they're just not the same. They don't have the stamped promos, right? So, you have the Lugia, and then you also have a Rayquaza. A Rayquaza trainer gallery, which is, $76. We've seen what the Misty, the Starmie, rather, sorry, from Astral. That's a $100 card now. There's no reason Rayquaza can't get to 100, but once again, we're talking about the box, not the cards per se. But what we can see is the Rayquaza has shot up, around 80, low 80s, and it's come down just a little. It's holding in the 70s. So, after this explosive growth, it's holding currently, so people have demand for this card. Obviously, there's extreme demand for the Lugia being up right now. If you zoom out right here, too, you can see well eclipsing the alt art boom. I mean, back here, bet everyone wishes they bought a ton of copies at 120, including myself, but, we've eclipsed the old highs by a lot. So, Silver Tempest and Astral Radiance, I think, are absolutely no-brainer buys in this market. So like I said, I don't really do a lot of hoorah-rah type of stuff, but that's my reasoning, and we'll go back to the other boxes just for a second. Not that Twilight is not a great set, right? Not that Twilight can't be a good investment either, but, Twilight's almost at 210, listed median at 230, so just comparatively, when you start to look at the sets, obviously the Greninja's doing extremely well. We talked about this one recently, right? Before it cracked 400, it was about to, and now it's officially a $400 card. The Greninja has just been like, yo, just watch me just go up and up and up every step of the way. It's come down, it's come up, it's stair-stepped its way up, right? And this is what you see. You see this happen with cards, with booster boxes. They come up, they have big growth, and then they cool off for a bit, and they come up, and then they cool off, and then they come up, and they cool off, right? So the Greninja just cracked $400. It's extremely iconic for the era currently. Now, the era still has a long way to go in Scarlet and Violet, right? But Twilight Masquerade's doing extremely well. It's got a great chase card as well. But, for me, for an oldie, right, Gen 1 bias, Gen 2 bias, I tend to like, even Gen 3, right, those first 3 generations. That's why I go, well, Twilight Masquerade boxes right now are 208. I'd maybe rather spend a little bit more and pick up some Sword and Shield boxes that are about the same price. I get we're fudging numbers here, and they're not the same price, but they're close, right? Then on the Twilight side, we do have the PC ETBs starting to pick up steam. I don't think this promo's not very good from Twilight Masquerade, in my opinion. But people love these PC ETBs, and it's up 26% in the past month. You can see a lot of purchases right here. And it's now cracked $100. So people like Twilight as well, and there's nothing wrong with it. Twilight also has the Eevee, which I think is a solid card. I don't have that one pulled up right now. It hasn't moved a ton right now. I think it's been kind of stagnant, which isn't a bad thing. But there's a few great cards from Twilight as well. Then we have Paldea Evolved, and Paldea Evolved has a lot of good cards in it. It does. I think of these cards, these sets between Twilight, Paldea, and Obsidian. I'm leaning Paldea being the best investment, but 220, right? SVO2, 220 a box, right? And it's had some great growth in the last 3 months, 67%. And you could see, it went up, it cracked 200, it came back down, cracked 200, came back down, and now we're seeing it kind of explode past $200, being in that 220 mark. And, in this set, there's tons of good cards. We might pull up the set list for this, but obviously, like the Magikarp being like the leading illustration rare, it's proven to just like lead this set. It's not as expensive as the Greninja. Extremely difficult to grade. Very popular artist, Shinji Kanda. You got a Gyarados in the background. Whoop, whoop. Hopefully we get the Gyarados in Destined Rivals. Fingers crossed for that. We should get an SIR or at least an IR or something. I'm excited for that. But, once again, great set. We'll pull up we'll pull this up just for the sake of this video. I did not have it pre-pulled up, but we can get there real quick. We go to cards. So Paldea Evolved, you got the Magikarp, you got a Raichu, you got a Tyranitar, a lot of great illustration rares, and then you have like all the new starters, their full evolution lines and Heracross. We've had these like this Baxcalibur and the Arctibax coming up a lot in value recently, but they're kind of cooling off maybe just a little. So yeah, it's a really great deep illustration set from Paldea. Right, but once again, if we're talking about the boxes, that's where I'm leaning. Well, Sword and Shield plays right now; they make a lot of sense. And then, lastly, to touch on Obsidian, a lot of people will poo-pooed on this set, being too Charizard heavy, and I get it. I guess Charizard fatigue, but like obviously, this set is performing very well. In the past 3 months, going from 120 up to, and once again, for the sake of this video, we're rounding up to 200. Lowest listed right now for an actual booster box is 192, which is right at market. So it might take a little bit for this to crack 200. At this rate, probably just like a few more days, maybe a week, at the rate things are going. So it's included in the conversation just because it's remotely close, right? And it's kind of one of those, it's not a top tier. I don't think anyone's going to call it a top tier Scarlet and Violet set. So that's what I'm saying. It's a lesser tiered set. And so you compare it to a lesser tiered Sword and Shield set, right? In a similar price. On the other coin, the PC ETB from Obsidian Flames, absolutely killing it. 84% growth and still climbing in the past 3 months from 150 up. This is at 280. This box is about to crack $300 for the Charmander smushing his forehead up against the glass, the promo. A great looking promo. Only 11 of these available on TCG Player. So you'll notice extremely low supply. 287 would be the lowest listed, and then it does go up into the 300s fairly quickly for this PC ETB. So once again, we're playing the comparison game, right? And I think I genuinely believe it's a no-brainer. I like both of these sets enough, right? Once again, they're not my top tier. They're not my top tier Sword and Shield. But given the current state of the market, Obsidian at 200 or this at 220, 225, 226, whatever, you might be able to pick up some boxes on eBay, maybe a little bit cheaper, depending. I might pick up some Astral Radiance. Not that there's not, like, if I'm going SV era, there's some, and even SV base is getting expensive now. I think it just cracked like 170. So there's a lot happening in SV that once, keep in mind too, give it a little bit more time, right? Give it a bit more time for SV to move up even more. The way the market's going, right? There's only one booster box even available on Pokemon Center, okay? These SV boxes are going to continue to run. The higher these SV boxes continue to run, the better some of these Sword and Shield boxes are looking. So it's kind of, I haven't used this analogy in a while, but I do like it and I do think it applies, is the carousel. If you ever watched a kid or anybody on a carousel, right, you watch them go all the way around until they go around the backside and then you can't see them anymore, right? And then you're watching whoever's there. right? And then the next thing comes around and you're like, oh, look at that. And then finally the kid you're watching or whoever you're watching comes back around and you can see him again. This is the carousel effect of booster boxes. Right now it's oh, Scarlet and Violet, look at Scarlet and Violet. And then oh, Scarlet and Violet's too expensive, it's out of my sight. And then you go, oh, look at these cheap Sword and Shield boxes. Comparatively, these Sword and Shield boxes look real good. And then they go out and then, oh, Sword and Shield's too expensive. And then, oh, but SV era now stuff, SV era stuff's looking good. You see what I'm saying? So I genuinely believe that these boxes, these two, and there are other Sword and Shield era boxes that, I mean, I recently said too, I still believe your Evolving Skies, your Lost Origin, your Fusion Strike, they're all leveling out or kind of cooling off from those big runs. And still, I think there's no way, especially in this market, it just needs some time at this point, that Evolving Skies doesn't crack 2K, 2,500, potentially 3K in the future. It's just too popular, and there's just too much demand. Even if the market cools off, when it cools off eventually, I believe that, with that, like I said, that analogy, the other analogy of Evolving Skies being the fullback lead blocker, then you're going to see eventually, $800, $1,000 boxes from Lost Origin, from Fusion Strike. And then, like I said, that leaves room for your lesser boxes, your Astral Radiance to go into the $400, $300, $400, $500 range. Given time, some of these boxes might take time. Some of it might genuinely, that might happen quicker than we think if this market continues. And I feel like when it comes to the market, what's happening right now, I feel honestly, I feel like potentially we're just getting started and things might continue just to get even crazier. That's kind of like been a little bit of a gut feeling I've been having lately. It's just that maybe I wouldn't say we're maybe at the tip of the iceberg, but it really seems like man, come Destined Rivals, that things are going to be absolutely blowing up massive. And I think it's going to bring so much more hype even once we start seeing that Mewtwo card, once we start seeing the Team Rocket leaks. I genuinely believe that we're in another ramp up potentially of just craze, and then those boxes they're going to be expensive out the rip, and everyone's going to float everything else. So the market is absolutely insane. But currently, as of this recording, Sunday, February 23rd in the morning, there are a few no-brainer purchases for booster boxes. And I do understand that if you're newer to the sealed investing, that these are a little expensive. I do acknowledge that. And you might want to go to the regular ETBs of these sets, which is fine. They'll still perform okay, but I kind of advise against that. For Sword and Shield era, booster boxes are king. But I get it. If your cost to entry is just not viable, then you got to do what you got to do. But I would lean towards the boxes, at least one box, right? If not a case. So, anyways, that's all I have for this one, guys. Hopefully that made sense. Leave me a comment if you guys agree or disagree, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. And remember, it was never a phase.